if you're censoring information about the lab leak hypothesis,
Yeah.
that's a real problem.
Right.
Because if we are still funding gain-of-function research, or if we're funding it through a proxy,
Right.
and they're denying this and lying about this and covering this up through emails, and then when you find out that certain physicians and doctors changed their testimony or changed their opinion and then received enormous grants, like this is you're following a very obvious paper trail.
Let's spend a minute on this, because this is
Yes.
crazy. So, and by the way, the New York Times finally ran a good story on this just yesterday, and particularly around Fauci. So Fauci, of course, is famous for saying, "I am science."
Yeah.
Let's just
If
pause.
you criticize Anthony Fauci, you're criticizing science.
First of
Which
all,
is a crazy
it's
thing for a human to say.
It's a crazy thing. That is, so first of all, the word science, I was thinking the other day, like, it should just not be a noun. Like, science is a process.
Yes.
A better word would be investigations or
Right.
investigating.
The science.
Yeah, it should be sciencing.
Yeah, when you say the science, criticizing the science, like, no, you mean the data?
Right.
Like, are you talking about data? Well, science is a process.
A process.
And you say the science. The
it's saying
science doesn't support it.
It's a religion. I mean, he's saying the truth, the religion. I'm the holy priest, in touch with God.
Well, it's just ego. It's so transparent that he can't even hide it.
Yes.
Like it's pouring out of him.
And I think this is such an interesting case because so the U.S. government banned gain-of-function research.
Yes, in 2014.
Right. NIH kept funding it.
Yes.
In China. So, and Fauci knew that. He knew that, and then...
But didn't that restart in 2016 or 17 when Trump got into office?
I'm not sure the exact timeline. You mean just started in China?
I think the Obama administration stopped the funding.
Right.
And then it kicked back in 2016. What would have been explained to me was that the Trump administration was so chaotic that the NIH said, listen, let's just fucking do this through the EcoHealth Alliance and to make it simple, and that way we'll kind of like do it by proxy.
Yeah. I think the punchline, though, is that Fauci knew very well that gain-of-function research was not only occurring at the Wuhan lab, but that it was being funded by the U.S. government.
Yeah.
And then they get on these conference calls, and two of the main researchers, I believe they're both from Scripps, they both go, I don't know. It looks like it could have been manufactured from a lab and not from zoonotic spillover. Mm-hmm. So it's even more sinister than just being arrogant. Right. It actually looks like a cover-up.
It looks like a cover-up, and it looks like a cover-up where the people who covered it up were compensated.
Oh, and not only that, but did you see? I don't know if you saw this recent report where it looks like they were double dipping. They were double charging. They were overcharging. So they were basically getting paid twice by U.S. taxpayers. CBS News, which is like only one of the few mainstream media outlets, has actually done a good job covering this. They also covered the Hunter Biden laptop accurately, belatedly, but they did. Yeah, they wrote about how these contractors were getting paid twice for the same work. Whoa. So that's a way now to kind of get in there and try to figure out what's going on. We're hoping to. I mean, the crazy thing is that on the Twitter, back to the Twitter files. Because, Elon is obsessed with Fauci and wants to have the Fauci files, but none of us have looked for this in the Twitter file. Like, literally nobody has yet even looked to see whether or not this COVID origin stuff was being censored from within Twitter. So we don't know yet. I mean, we've just been backed up in a lot of other stuff. But
wow. So this other stuff is so preoccupied all of your time so is that next on the agenda?
I hope so. I mean,
should you be proclaiming that publicly?
No, it's, you mean that we want to look for it? Yeah. No, I mean, Elon proclaimed it.
Yes.
Elon promised the Fauci files.
Well, he literally said his pronouns are prosecute Fauci, which is wild.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been... I would have liked to do the Fauci files first and then and then make a judgment.
Well, the thing, he's smart, and what he's doing is he's like firing a shot across the bow, and then causing people to scramble and reveal their intentions and reveal like what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's a chess move. It's a good chess move. Because it gets people talking, and then it gets people talking about Fauci. I have no idea what he is talking about. It's just craziness. Oh, it's craziness. Is it really? Well, maybe someone's going to go look at AZT. Maybe someone's going to go back and look at the way you guys handled the AIDS crisis. Because if you look at Robert Kennedy Jr.'s book, The Real Anthony Fauci, if that book is accurate, I don't know if it's accurate. I'm assuming he hasn't been sued yet. It's a terrifying book. When they talk about the AIDS crisis and it's essentially a version of what you're seeing now, but with no internet, where they were allowed to do things with no investigative journalists, no social media outrage, no people posting different studies that contradict what they're saying.
Yeah.
It's a wild book, man. It's a wild book of unchecked power and influence. And also like an absolute disdain for what is beneficial to human life and the American people, and instead what is great for profit.
Yeah, I mean, it's an abuse of power. You know, we had this crazy abuses of power, you know, under Nixon and during the Vietnam War, late 60s, early 70s. We had a church. We had this thing called the church committee hearings.
Yes.
It was bipartisan. It did result in a bunch of reforms. It reminded we had a bunch of reforms that basically prevented the federal government from spying on the American people. And
well, that's out the window.
well, yeah, I mean, we need a new church commission. The Democrats are the obstacle to it. The Republicans are doing this weaponization of the federal government hearings, but you need both parties to do a proper cleaning out of these bad actors. I mean, hopefully the lawsuits, the Twitter files, I think, you know, just talking about this and testifying about it, I think actually because sunlight is the best disinfectant. But no, you're right. We've got to defund and dismantle the censorship industrial complex. But we also need to hold people accountable who were doing this
I think that's the
illegal
only
thing.
way. If people aren't held accountable, then it seems like you can just do it again and get away with it. And then everybody just sort of just gets, they upwardly move and
That's right.
get rehired in new organizations. And
That's right. They kind of hide. They kind of get quiet for a little while, and they kind of just, you know, quiet, but they'll come back. So absolutely, it's you know, it's funny because as you get older, I was like, as you get older, you're like, wow, those cliches are true. You know, like the one that's like, you know, the famous Jefferson one of the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. You're like, wow, it was so. I remember being like, that's so cringe. You know, like a few years ago, and now I'm like, wow, that is.
It's
profound.
crazy.
It's
Well,
so true.
We were talking about this last night that, you know, when I was texting Elon about all this stuff, he was like, he's hilarious. He's like, turns out all the conspiracy theories were true, LOL. I mean, he thinks it's funny.
He's so casual about it. I'm like
Yes.
terrified.